Well, two of the most consequential Senate runoffs in recent memory are just weeks away, and early voting is already underway in Georgia. Bloomberg Quicktake chief correspondent Jason Kelly spoke to Operation Hope chairman and CEO John Hope Bryant about the recent presidential election, black voters, and income inequality in Atlanta. Take a look.
It's not a surprise to you probably that this is happening, but it does feel like something accelerated over the course of 2019 and certainly through 2020 that led us to this point where the change became apparent to the rest of the nation, and that result on November 3rd that maybe raised a few eyebrows. Help us understand it from your perspective, and whether something did sort of catalyze this.
My response might be a little unorthodox for the high-mindedness of Bloomberg, but I think it's really basically true. That was a compliment, by the way. You had swing states that were defined by one thing primarily, and Atlanta and Georgia defined by one thing primarily, and that is this: Black people pretty much vote twice. When we're proud. I'm talking about en masse now. When we're proud and when we're pissed. And we were proud when Obama ran that first time. Now, why we don't vote en masse overall is another topic. It ties to history of depression coming out of 300 years of oppression and so on and so forth. And we were pissed. 2019, and the fuse got absolutely lit in 2020 because we really felt as a race of people that the president of the United States of America pretty much gave us, two middle fingers, and energized it and exercised it and bragged about it and touted it and flouted it and sort of flipped us off. Yeah. You do what I say, how I say it. It doesn't matter what I say to you. And I think that folks were like, no, this is a democracy. And you will hear our voice. And I think for people who felt, put upon for so long, this was their time within the structure of the system, which is where it should be exercised, to go from a power in the streets to a power in the suites, the voting booths, the corporate suites, the government halls of government, to articulate their displeasure and their desire for change at scale.
What are you seeing like right now on the ground? The numbers seem to indicate that the enthusiasm, at least in terms of turnout, is pretty close, and certainly closer than we would normally see in a runoff where there is a drop-off. Typically, by all measures, this is, two races, and it is unusual in that regard, but tons of money, tons of attention. You have had visits from both the president and the president-elect, as well as numerous former presidents and former officials. I mean, the energy level has got to feel massive down there.
It is, and it is massive. And, Atlanta continues to be the moral capital for this country. And I think that we are once again becoming a bit of a role model for what's possible. On so many levels. From an economic level, Atlanta has defined. From a civil rights level, Atlanta has defined. From an electoral level, Atlanta has now just defined. I see something happening that happened in the civil rights movement also, Jason, which is now, it's not just Black, it's our white brothers and sisters. It's young, energized people who may be voting for the right the first time. Is reasonable people of all shapes and colors and political views. Who are saying, it's time for a change, and that's what's happened every 100 years, as I mentioned earlier. It happened in the 1960s, most recently. So I'm encouraged. Whatever comes out of this, we've got a new coalition of the willing of masses of people, Black and white, rich and poor. I believe Democrat and Republican, who want for a life better for their children and grandchildren and their own legacy.
So, John, the and yet part of this conversation is that, and as you know, I grew up in Atlanta. I love the city. I know it well.
Yep.
One of the things you and I both know, though, is that for all of the rich heritage and civil rights, for all of the success economically, there is a massive income inequality that manifests in Atlanta specifically. Help me understand why and where we should think about and how we should think about solving that.
Yeah, Atlanta is the home of the most Black wealth in America through small business. Most Black millionaires created, most Black businesses created and sustained here. It's unbelievable the wealth that was created here and sustains, and the jobs that come from that. It's also the home to one of the poorest population of Black people. Who are completely disconnected. And then Georgia overall has a huge population of my poor and struggling white brothers and sisters who are understandably frustrated as well. And this is not sustainable. We have gone from a crisis of Black and white, as in race, to a crisis of green, as in US currency. And you have this example of what we have in this country of, you have this sort of investor economy and what I call the real economy. And the real economy is feeling like this is a recession, maybe even feeling like a little slight depression, whereas the investor economy is seeing enormous success. So we've got to do a better job of enrolling and encouraging and including those at the bottom and not having this bifurcation.
You know, just very briefly, as you take stock of 2020, how do you think it's changed you?
It's made me believe again, Jason. 2 years ago, I was just thinking, this train's left the station. The rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poor, and nobody cares enough to do anything about it. People care, but he was like, well, I really care, but I got a meeting right now. Oh, I really care, but, as long as it doesn't hurt my pocket. And, I really think, excuse me for saying this, that this was God speaking. You got a health pandemic, the largest in 125 years. You got a economic crisis for unemployment that rivals the Great Depression. And you've got a 400-year-old social justice reckoning of Black America in 4-month period. And we managed all that together. And by the way, I was told by a wealthy friend of mine that we couldn't handle having an economy on hold for 6 weeks before everything fell apart. That was back in March. We've been doing this for almost a year now, and we're still here. So if for all our problems, and there's a lot of it, 110,000 restaurants that are out of business, and that's unforgivable in my opinion, because we could have done something about that. For all of the pain, we're still here, Jason, and we're still strong, and people are wearing masks now, and we're realizing we're better together. And even in this election, you saw not red or blue so much, but almost fuchsia. I mean, the new president's going to have to manage through the Get It Done party, not the Republican Party or the Democratic Party, or the Get It Done party. We all need to get it done and realize that we're one country. That's what that feeling you had for 2 weeks after 9/11, where everybody came together and said, we're one country, dang it. Stop with the walls, let's build some bridges. We're in it to win it, and we're better together. That's what I'm feeling sustainably now as a result of this 2020 experience. And I think it's changed us forever, changed who we are and how we operate. Now we got to, though, bridge between those who are really feeling pain in the far right and the far left. Those in the middle have to use our influence, whatever we have, to bridge those folks together and make sure that they know they're not forgotten